Eschatology is fast becoming an unknown commodity, though, to evangelicals. In fact, the younger the age may be, the more it seems to be ignored or disregarded. And as I've often stated, at a time when prophetic events are escalating and the daily news shouts to us a reflection of what the pages of the Bible say, churches, and thus Christians, are alarmingly unaware or perhaps willfully ignorant about this ever so important topic. When I was directed recently to an article by a friend of mine, Pastor Tom Hughes, entitled 5 Reasons Pastors Don't Teach Bible Prophecy, I immediately felt compelled to explore it with him and get him here on Understanding the Times Radio. Tom is the pastor of the great 412 Church in San Jacinto, California. He's a trusted friend, a talented and anointed teacher, and Tom has been in pastoral ministry many years, but the last 11 years at 412 Church, with 10 of those years teaching every Sunday night faithfully about God's prophetic word. He's a guest on radio and TV often and hosts his own weekly program called Today in Prophecy, and you can find out more and access Tom's great information at endtimestv.org. That's endtimestv.org. I've spoken about this topic many times myself, and when I first drove up to 412 Church several years ago, I knew I was going to be right at home and in the right place, because the first thing you see as you approach the church is a huge banner inviting the public to the weekly Sunday night service that, of course, is studying the end times and Bible prophecy. So, Pastor Tom Hughes, thanks for joining me, and how is everything down there in San Jacinto today?
I'm doing great, Eric. It's good to hear from you.
Well, welcome to Understanding the Times. We're glad you could take a few minutes here to talk about this. And I think this is such an important issue. We have had several programs recently about dealing with skeptics in the sleeping church and what do we do in these days when so many around us won't listen to us when we deal with issues just like this. But this particular topic that you've written about in your article is so near and dear to my heart. 5 reasons pastors don't teach Bible prophecy. You know, it could be 55 reasons, couldn't it?
It could be. And there's, it's really sad, Eric, but there are a lot of churches that just avoid it like the plague. And as you've already mentioned in some of your previous programs, it seems like most skeptics of Bible prophecy come from churches.
Yeah, that's true. And we hear that. And later in my notes here, I've got a point that I'd like to bring up to ask you about kingdom now and dominion theology. But, that's one of the reasons. There's many, though, that people have stayed away from this issue. 40 years ago, if you advertised a seminar on Bible prophecy, the people would be there an hour early trying to knock down the doors of the church to get in, to get the first seat right in the front. But today, it's like pulling teeth. You're advertising, come and get your root canal here, when you're talking about Bible prophecy. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think there's various reasons that you can point to. I've written in the article that you're referring to, I believe, 5 different reasons. You can look across the board. And I think when it comes to the common person, not the Bible teacher or pastor, but the average person, I should say, why they don't want to be involved that much in going to Bible prophecy messages or conferences is because of fear. I talk with a lot of people, and they'll say that some of the things that I teach or they hear in Bible prophecy, it upsets them, and they just don't want to be upset. It's a crazy reason because rightly understood, it's going to strengthen you and help you to have your feet firmly planted if you do understand it.
Very true. The Apostle Paul makes the point in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 that we're to comfort one another with words that are directly related to a huge event in Bible prophecy, the rapture of the church. And, we all want to have the good things. Seems like a lot of people in the church today, because of the narcissistic culture, we want to have what we want to have, what church can do for us, what God can do for us. But, whenever there's anything negative brought up, why we don't have anything to do with that, because we've been so schooled to believe that the sad reality is a lot of people think church is about us. Instead, it's about God. And they have missed the point that God has given us these great clues about the future, though we don't know all of the players' names. We don't know the exact times. We don't know how all the events come together, but we do have the framework given to us in Scripture. And the Bible says that should help us. It gives us comfort and understanding about the future. And I just want to start going through the things you said in the article, Tom, because I think this is so important. I really believe I just want to cut you loose and maybe comment on each one of these right through it. The first one is they don't understand Bible prophecy. This is a reason why pastors don't teach on it. They don't understand it.
Right. I've heard that from talking with other pastors before. But Eric, I liken it to this. Before I ever taught the Bible, I had to go out and buy commentaries and listen to messages and pray a lot. And I remember the time I decided I was going to teach through the book of Revelation for the first time. And I thought there's no way I'm ever going to be able to do that. And this was years ago. I used to listen to Hal Lindsey and these other prophecy teachers. I realized just through prayer that I need to take the book of Revelation and Bible prophecy the same way I did with any other book in the Bible or any other biblical subject, get my commentaries out, get the dictionaries out, and pray and study hard. And what you do when you study, you're making a careful inquiry, as you could bring up from the book of Deuteronomy. And that's what you do with any Bible study. Well, you approach Bible prophecy the same way. You study hard, you pray hard, you use discernment, and God will lead you in the right direction. And then you go for it.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think any pastor who's worth his salt, who's been a pastor long, would ever disagree with the idea that it takes study, it takes prayer. And if you're not studying to show yourself approved, if you're not digging into the Word and helping people to understand what the Word means and have a heart to bring people along in that, then I really think you're disquieting what it means to be a pastor. You're really taking away from it. And I'll tell you, I remember the first time I read through the book of Revelation as a young Christian. It was not an edifying event, I'll tell you that. So I know that feeling. I think a lot of us have had that feeling. I didn't read it go, yippee, here comes Antichrist, Well,
when you read it without any help, without much understanding, you read it and it can seem bizarre. But you and I both know you read it and you begin to understand it and you take the book of Revelation literally and it really makes sense.
Yeah,
and
really
you realize
does.
In the end, Jesus wins.
Yes.
And you realize, wow, God is just telling us what's going to come so we can be well prepared. And I think pastors should be teaching it because it does teach their congregation to not just live for this life or live in this life, but you're really living for the next life. One day you're going to be home with the Lord. And it's an exhortation to do that.
Yeah, and, therein lies maybe one of the problems why pastors don't teach on this, because so many of them have been schooled to teach on only the here and now, to give people the tools for how to live their earthly lives. But eternity seems to be a secondary, even lost cause in some churches and some preaching.
Yeah, and to me, that's crazy. Eric, that is absolutely crazy because this life is short. What is it? It's a vapor, right?
It is a
then
vapor.
It passes away.
Yep.
So we are preparing ourselves for eternity. One day, you and I are going to be home with Jesus. And I know you're like me. We want to hear those words, well done, good and faithful servant. And as a pastor, that includes preparing your congregation for eternity. I want the congregation that I teach at, I want them to hear those words.
Exactly.
I just finished teaching a 10-week series on heaven and all that God has for us. But doesn't a person want to be well prepared in going to heaven? Well, also with Bible prophecy, man, I get excited, Eric, because I know the things that I see happening now let me know that Jesus is coming soon and all the wrongs are going to be righted. The stuff that everybody complains about, Jesus is going to fix these things. And I'm excited about that because there's such hope. I don't have any hope in the doom and gloom, but the doom and gloom does let me know Jesus is coming.